Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to the hot pole position.
I'm back.
Yeah. As always, I'm your host, Adam Steele. Today, I will be joined by Liam, but in the meantime, let's welcome back Mr. Christian Taylor, our
Hey.
host of old. How are you,
Oh
sir?
yes, I'm good. I'm good. Been good to finally actually be able to do this and have time to do this because I missed out on so much.
Oh, being busy's it's just a thing these days.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're not busy. You're not working hard enough.
yeah. There we go. So let me pause the Dropbox sync again. Yeah. So how's your week been?
Um, interesting.
Oh, hello.
Kind of spoke about it before the alternative material stuff. So let's have a. I'm digging a bit deeper into that. I think I have a process planned. So let's. Now it's just prototyping and stuff like that now.
Cool.
Oh, you got me?
Yeah. 1 second, because I can see you, but there we go. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Exploit was just having a bit of a funny.
Ah,
Yeah. All fixed. Yeah. Good stuff. So I've been very ill. Not as ill as last week. The last week on stream I had a very ill baby with me. But I'll show everybody on camera. If I take off my glasses, look at my eyes, which obviously you can't hear on the podcast, but I look like I've been smoking that stuff that has been made legal in Canada.
oh, gorgeous blue. Gorgeous blue.
With strong hints of red. Yeah, my eyes are incredibly red. It's conjunctivitis. I'll be okay. I'll live. It'll
Yeah.
go away. But it's been really quite intense trying to do stuff like editing this week. It's put me back even further because I've not really been able to film this week because
Yeah, you can't really be on camera
Yeah.
looking like that.
Yeah, like, what's
No
up,
offense.
dudes? Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, it sounds
man.
great.
Yeah. I am hoping tonight, after this stream, if I've got some time, to be able to finish one of the big projects that I've been doing, which is I've been editing the kind of update and replacement of the Reaper 101 video.
Yes.
So
I still send that people. Like I still think that's so helpful and because it's daunting changing Dawn.
yes.
Changing Dawn is always terrifying.
So it's a complete redo, but the original one was about 35 minutes. This one's more like an hour. But that's mostly because as the videos got really, really popular, loads of people have asked me questions about it. And a lot of them have been, hey, that's a really good question. Maybe I should have answered that in the original video. Little things
Yeah,
like...
exactly. You only realize what you missed once the comments start coming through and you go, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Things
Especially when
like...
you answer the same thing multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I actually, in the new video, I go out of my way to get a USB MIDI keyboard and actually physically play notes in and show you how to activate a keyboard and that kind of thing. And
Really, mine's playing up at the moment. I think I need a new cable, but with my setup, it's kind of going behind everything,
right.
and I think the cable's damaged whilst it's being caught in everything else. So I had to rip it all out and redo this. But it's not the worst thing. Like I still use. It's a bit dusty, like my Korg Nano key.
All right.
Yep, still got it. The black edition.
Good
Because
stuff.
I'm gothy and metal, apparently. So
I'm currently using 2 keyboards in the studio. I've now got an M-Audio key station. That's nice. Yeah, and it's USB rather than... Because that old fully weighted Studio Logic one that I had, which I still got, is only traditional MIDI, which can be quite a pain to have to hook up and everything.
yeah, to be honest, I don't think I've only ever used like the MIDI in on my sound card when I've had guests, kind of. Oh, well, I'm using my keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is what we're doing. Other than that, I'm using USB.
It's funny, a lot of people on comments on videos ask me when I'm doing like interface reviews, either does it have MIDI ports or why doesn't it have MIDI ports? And the answer is not enough people want it. It's not, Yeah,
it's kind of obsolete.
it's not that nobody wants it, it's that not enough people want it to justify charging everybody extra for the privilege.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's not expensive to get a separate like USB MIDI adapter if that's what you really need.
Yeah, exactly. If you need it for that time, but the
Yeah.
amount it costs to design it to have a MIDI in and a MIDI out
Yeah.
for
I mean, a lot of the
20% of people, maybe.
interfaces that are all like £1,000 plus, they've all got a MIDI in and out, and that makes sense.
Yeah, because they can afford it.
But
Like,
it's factored into the price, I think.
yeah.
At that point, the RME Radar card that I use has got 2 MIDI in and 2 MIDI outs on it. But considering it's got no analog preamps or anything, it's still nearly 500 quid just for that. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But you look at these like small Focusrite, these solos and stuff like that.
mm.
They're not designed for people that are gonna run a full studio with a full MIDI drum kit or anything. It's not that kind of market.
No,
So
and 99% of modern MIDI equipment has a USB port on it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you just plug the USB straight into the computer. If you need a driver, you need a driver, but that's it. It's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are waiting for Liam to call in, but in the meantime, let's start talking about some of today's news, shall we?
Yeah,
Let's
do this.
flick to news number 1. This is something that I found really, really interesting. This is our headline title this evening. AMD is releasing its 7nm Ryzen 3000 CPUs on July 7th.
Yeah.
Now,
All the sevens. We've
all
gone
the 7s, yes.
pure marketing. Let's do this.
Yeah. On its own, a lot of people are probably looking at this article and going, why should I care? Because everybody knows, quote unquote, everybody knows that Intel is better than AMD. Well, over the last few years...
It's not the way it works anymore.
Yeah, well, 5 or 6 years ago, I probably wouldn't have argued with that assessment. For the amount of money you were paying, the amount of performance you were getting, the amount of heat usage, that kind of thing, Intel kind of had it down. But
Yeah,
AMD with
exactly.
Ryzen have come back swinging for the fences. They are absolutely going bananas, and this generation is going to be, by all accounts, the thing that puts them back ahead of Intel for the first time in a decade.
Yeah.
For heavy-duty music producers, as a great example, the top of the line is a 12-core, 24-thread processor. So that's pretty much as many tracks as a lot of songs have. Or let's say you've got 100 channels, 100 tracks in your song. That's four channels per processor core, per thread. That's, making it easy, very easy on the processor. And to get a 12-core Intel processor, I believe you're looking at $900 to $1,000.
Whoa.
Which,
it's
yeah, not
I know
including the rest of the
computer world
computer.
it's not that bad, but still.
Well, it's always been the way that the consumer stuff, up to a level, the prices are a little steep but reasonable, and then you get to your enthusiast, and the price just shoots up.
Yeah.
But for that 12-core performance, AMD doing that, $500.
It's such a gouge in the market in comparison.
So we're going to be waiting.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
In comparison, it goes back to that kind of, well,
here we go. Actually
I could
says,
have bought that once, or I could get this and probably do another upgrade.
Yeah.
Or be ready.
typical
So-
AMD as well, all their previous motherboards and everything will be backward compatible. So if you've even got the previous generation and you want this new 12-core processor, you should be able to just go and get one. And you're not paying more.
That's another massive thing.
Mm.
Like, if this is literally just a drop into a rig that I've already got, that's even more of a reason to carry on with this. And, rather than change to Intel or try something else, it's like, well, I've already got this. This will just drop in and be amazing.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it?
looking at this
So
article from The Verge, so it's $499 for that 12-core AMD part. Intel's comparable 9920X is $1,189.
yeah.
So it's
So
even more than I thought.
performance between those two.
Is
Is
gonna
the
be
Intel actually got any up against the Ryzen?
apparently not. So
Really?
we're gonna be
So
waiting
there's
until
no reason to go with the Intel, like, at all. If it
the
was like, well, technically it's 4.7, or it's
yeah.
technically better, but
We might be
no.
talking a matter of a couple of percent.
Yeah, $500, 600. Well, no, it's bad. I'm really bad at math.
It's nearly
600.
800. No, it's nearly $700 difference.
Uh,
You
a
could buy
couple of
two of
percent.
the
I'm
AMD
alright.
ones and still have some change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's crazy,
absolutely
but it's
bananas.
amazing that Ryzen could produce this. Well,
Yeah.
AMD could produce this at such a price mark.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is the entire design of it. So basically AMD can already do this kind of performance with the Threadripper platform, but the
Yeah,
Threadripper platform is big, chunky, literally big processors, like physically large. And they're using some very clever technology, but that does have to hike the price up. It means you have to use some sort of custom equipment. These prices are because the Ryzen, standard Ryzen, is just that it's a general consumer platform. There's nothing out of the ordinary. There's nothing absolutely critical that you have to do
yeah,
to spend the extra money to
yeah,
get it working. Excuse me.
exactly. So it's as powerful and it's more convenient. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
just why wouldn't you?
Here's another thing that's got me thinking. The entire chipset on all the motherboards for these new Ryzen processors are using PCI Express 4, which is PCI Express, it's the connections between any like add-in cards and that kind of thing. Graphics cards, sound cards, whatever. I can't see that making a difference for sound cards, but by doubling the entire speed of the entire thing, here's one. Not only graphics cards will be easier to, they're not going to be limited by the amount of data transfer,
Yeah.
but the important thing for me is solid state hard drives. They're currently limited to about 3,000 megabytes a second, which is damn fast.
Yeah.
But the PCI Express 4 doubles that, and if you run multiple of these cards in multiple lanes, you can stack up the speed. And I think from what AMD was saying, you can run you can run Windows at 15 gigabytes a second. That's going to load everything up before you have a chance to sneeze.
That's inhuman. That's just
Yeah.
beyond anything.
So that's the kind of thing where if you get a phone call from a client that says, I need a recall on my mix now, you can go, okay, it's already loaded, what do you need? You're still on the
Exactly.
phone and you're going, yep, okay, well,
Hypothetically, how many forms of contact can you run before you might start feeling it?
what load from disk option, and it just goes,
Yeah.
whatever. Just have the
Yeah,
entire,
exactly.
Hans Zimmer's entire setup just from one of these machines.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, the things that interest me is this whole thing. It's based on 7 nanometer technology, so it's basically been shrunk down, which means that they can get more in the same space. Doesn't make as much heat. Doesn't boil itself to death, which means you can crank the speed up.
So it's like Moore's law.
Yeah, but
Kind
it's
of.
getting the next step down. Thing is, Intel have had massive problems trying to get down there, which is why the 67, the Skylake 6000 processors and all the new ones, 7, 8, and 9000 processors, they're basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed because Intel haven't had a technological breakthrough. They're really panicking and struggling and trying to get down to the next level, and they're not managing it. And AMD have beaten them to the punch and gone, hey guys, we're already ahead of you.
Yeah, so usually when stuff like this happens, it's not exactly long until someone else, cracks the code and you get the replicas coming out. You know, we see it all the time. Something comes out and then boom, everyone can do it.
Yeah.
So what do you think's holding Intel back?
I can tell you because I watched quite a few videos about this. Because especially when when I'm at home looking after the baby, I don't have a lot that I can really do apart from keep an eye on her and watch YouTube videos. So, thanks to Gamers Nexus, I understand that I've completely lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Who are you?
So
Who am I?
what's been holding Intel back?
Yes.
Like how's it DBM?
Right, it's a thing called lithography. The way they make the processors is they have to actually design it on a giant piece of paper, digitally of course. They actually have to draw the thing out. Then they have to find a way of etching that design onto a physical thing. It's like a potato print.
Yeah, you put it onto the PCB or... Yeah, well, probably not PCB these days, but,
Well, it is still a PCB. It's just very, 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 very small.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's more to it, of course. But the general idea is... The problem is, and they hit this problem several years back, what they used to do is get a laser to etch out all the circuits. The actual traces in the circuits now are about 1/10 of the size of a laser.
Wow.
So how do you draw... It's like trying to draw the Mona Lisa with a crayon.
Yeah.
So that's where the breakthroughs
have
been things like they'll draw the same design 2 or 3 times and overlay the design on top of itself to try and make it so that what's left over is accurate enough and that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then AMD and Samsung and TSMC they've all been working on this technology called extreme ultraviolet. Because the further across the light spectrum you go, the smaller the laser is, essentially.
Yeah.
So it used to be red lasers, and now it's gone to ultraviolet, and now it's extreme ultraviolet. And apparently there've been production problems with getting that done. But they've got to a point where AMD have kind of cracked it. Which means a massive breakthrough. AMD and their partners have cracked it. Because Intel still make their own chips. AMD don't.
Right.
If I remember rightly.
So, do you think they kind of shot themselves in the foot by keeping it, quote-unquote, in-house?
Possibly.
Kind of thing?
It seems that way. I mean, it's very hard to say because everything at the companies, they keep very tight-lipped about all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But where AMD have come out with the Ryzen platform and they've now cracked the 7nm thing, Intel's only answer really has been to shove more cores into the same processors and go, look, it's bigger, it's better, it's faster. And they've had some small incremental improvements over the last few years, but it really has been 10% here, 10% there.
Yeah, okay. So,
had a question in chat about Thunderbolt support. As far as I know, at this time, Ryzen 3 isn't going to support Thunderbolt, not because of any reason other than the licensing for Thunderbolt is being worked on. So in the future, Thunderbolt is now, and this is a big development, it's being rolled into the USB standard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so where it used to be that Intel had to give you a certificate and validate all your Thunderbolt stuff to make sure it worked, it's going to be part of the USB standard now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be a massive change, and that could come halfway through this production cycle. If you can get a USB standard certified Thunderbolt card that doesn't need a special motherboard and just jam that in there, especially with PCI Express 4, which is more than fast enough to handle Thunderbolt.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's going to be a massive game changer for AMD. Especially for the audio guys, like the guy in chat is like, can't see AMD offering anything that could entice the modern music producer without Thunderbolt. I don't use Thunderbolt. I'm quite happy.
No, you're still on. I mean, I use it now, but I kind of had to go with the times because they stopped supplying Firewire.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I had to jump ship. But
I'm a bit of an oddball using PCI Express, but PCI Express is essentially Thunderbolt at the heart of it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, for read and write speed, you're pretty much talking the same game.
Well, they are, yeah, in terms of the actual communication bus, they're identical. There's a layer on top of Thunderbolt that is to do with how it comes across a cable and sends graphics and all that kind of jazz. But the actual
Yeah, but
underlying
that
data...
doesn't matter though.
Exactly, yeah. For audio guys, the underlying data stream is identical.
Yeah.
So, that is a thing. Alright, so, I think, yeah, we're just about exhausted this. Yeah, they're the main things, is everything's going to be a lot faster for the same kind of money. If not
Can't
less.
complain.
Yeah. So AMD, with being not the value option as the cheap option, but the value option as the no-brainer, I think it's going to really, yeah. And the old stigma about Intel being more stable or that kind of thing, that's largely gone as well. Because that was to do with the old AMD FX processors, which were notoriously not great. But
yeah, but you talk about stuff when we were like barely 20. Like that was that whole mindset back then, you know.
yeah.
It's not.
Well, it still seems to be a mindset with a lot of head in the sand musicians and music producers. But here's the entire Ryzen system was designed with all of the Intel patents. And all the modern Intel processors, here's an industry not very secret, have been designed with AMD patents in them.
Right.
They all rely on each other. Any 64-bit processor that you see right now, which is all the Intel ones, their core instruction set is called x86-64. And AMD wrote that. It's AMD's property. So, yeah, the two of them, plus the lead designer from Intel left and went to AMD to design Ryzen.
Wow.
Yeah, the absolute, like, whiz-kid genius. So Ryzen is literally, apart from the name and the colour of the box, an Intel chip, really. But it's being sold at massively less money because AMD are playing it smart.
Yeah, well, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
No. Under current competition, it's not something new, but the fact that they're offering pretty much a superior product, in my opinion, for so much less, I can't. How do you argue against it other than say I really like Intel's logo?
Yeah. A lot of the remaining argument I think is going to be based on previous track record, which is going to muddy the waters a bit, but previous track record doesn't affect what you have right now.
Exactly. That stigmatism, is a thing, but that's only for people that want to look at it. You know, if you're open-minded and more than happy to try AMD, then do AMD, especially at this price. What have you got to lose in comparison?
Exactly. I'm considering, I think, a few years back, I decided to get the current studio computer, which was a Skylake computer, which was a quad-core, which is still just about powerful enough. I got it on finance, and I don't know why I did that. I just kind of decided to. It was like a 0% deal, but I finished paying for it next month. So I'm thinking, hey, if we're going to get a new studio machine that's got more than 4 threads on its processor, just in case we get any crazy projects in, then I'm absolutely 100% going the AMD route.
Absolutely.
I'm not spending $1,500 again on a kind of flagship system when I can spend 2/3 or even a half of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's to get the Intel, you'd be probably financing again.
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
I guess that because of that price, is a lot to drop in one hit. 500. I've done that on guitars.
Yeah.
You know.
Good
Easy.
question from the chat. Will the 12 core, especially CPU, save you any real time in studio production? Yes. If you've got a very heavy project going on with lots of tracks, lots of effects, lots of like orchestral stuff, say, or whatever, you're not going to have to freeze a single track. You can just load it up and go. And if your DAW is good at multi-thread workloads, which Reaper is, Logic is, Pro Tools not so much, but it does 8 cores quite well apparently. Studio One apparently is quite good. If you've never got a single pop and stutter with your buffer down at like 32 samples, which means that all your musicians are happy because there's practically zero latency, yeah, I think it's going to save you time in studio production. And when you hit bounce at the end, you hit render, it's just going to fly.
Yeah, exactly. If you're pretty much, you bought the Native Instruments set, like any of the completes and stuff.
Yeah.
This has got to be perfect because you're not going to feel those load times of trying to load massive at the same time as, contacts or a damage or anything, battery. You're not going to feel it. You just won't.
Oh,
and you'll still be able to run them still and record.
So,
which I have hit that problem before where I've had that many things going on. It's like, okay, so I need to sacrifice something. It's usually stuff like delays on synths. I usually have to go, okay, well that needs to go just so I can track. But that's like big ambient tech metal kind of tracks.
Yeah, but that's a lot of producers are going that way, where they want lots of tracks and lots of effects, not to mask any lack of any production or whatever. That's what they want to do.
It's a lot. I think the style I've probably is like size is really a big thing in production at the moment, especially for I think newer producers because they feel they need to fill every point in the frequency range. So there has to be something. Yeah. But I think we're seeing now in probably more in like radio, pop, hip hop, whatever you want to call it, tracks are getting stripped down a lot.
Yeah.
And
it goes in
we're kind of going off subject, but like lo-fi is a big thing now.
I'm really getting into Billie Eilish at the moment.
Okay. Right.
I don't know why, but there's just something about what she's doing that's like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. That is one of those, is I guess a guilty pleasure now, Bad Guy.
Yeah.
Is one of those tracks you kind of go, this sounds like the menu music for Plants vs. Zombies, but this is really cool.
That's what it is. I've been trying to place what it's from. It does. Oh my god, it does. Yeah.
But that drop at the end, oh my god, that is one of the heaviest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's so cool. And I don't even like that kind of stuff normally.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, her and her brother who does the production, they've just got something that works.
Oh, it's a brother. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think his name's Fergus or something like that. Yeah. So they do all the production in the family. It's a bit weird. But there you go.
That's cool, though. It's pretty cool. So, listening to the lyrics and knowing that our brothers sat there listening to talk about, that gets weird.
Yeah. Okay, so a few more things in chat before we move on. ASRock's Phantom Gaming iX X570 has Thunderbolt 3. Don't know how they've done it. That's what I was saying about Thunderbolt 3 is now part of the USB standard, which means that Intel don't need to validate it anymore, which means over the next 6 months or so, that game's going to change completely, and we're going to see more Thunderbolt 3 on the AMD platform, because up till now it's not been possible because of the required validation from Intel. And now being part of the USB standard, it's going to be seen a lot more. No concerns, all plugins and other software will work okay with AMD? No, not at all, because it's x86-64 based processors. Everything is completely 100% the same in terms of architecture between Intel and AMD. And like I was saying, the Intel processors, they actually... Oh, incoming. Join call. Hello.
Hello.
Hola.
Hola.
Will I do a tutorial on mastering in Reaper? That literally got released last week. Okay, you seem to have replaced Chris somehow.
No. As in, like, he's not on the call.
Not on this call. Let's get
Right,
him
if
on
it's
the
going to be an
call.
issue, I'll drop off and you carry on. I'll be watching the show, so...
I have to... There we go. He's on the call.
Hey.
There we
hello.
go. Hey.
Hello. I kicked you off by mistake, I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
It's all
I
good.
didn't mean to.
So let's just see about getting everybody. Oh, okay. So
Have
Good
I got
old-
time to key while you guys do this?
it won't take me long at all. There we go. So apparently, it thinks. There we go. So I just need to turn this extra sound off. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Liam and Chris.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been talking about the new AMD Ryzen processors. and how
Yeah.
they're absolutely gonna-
I've been watching.
Cool. Yeah, they're gonna absolutely kill everything. Marty says, but when you hit render, you go for coffee. No, when you hit render, somebody else goes for coffee. Hello, hi. And yeah, Marcus says, will you do a tutorial on mastering in Reaper? I did that last week. So that's
Yeah, that's-
Wait,
yeah.
no. There could be a caveat in that.
Go on.
You could go mastering using purely Reaper.
I suppose, but that's a tricky one for me. Doing it no third party, I probably wouldn't, to be honest. I'd just spring the money or send it to a mastering engineer, to be perfectly honest with you. Because the amount of audible quality difference at the mastering stage between the isotope stuff and the inbuilt Reaper stuff for what you want it to do is massive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Things like limiters and that kind of thing, there's nothing inbuilt into any DAW right now that's even nearly decent.
Oh, fair enough.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So, yes, I mean, working with free plugins is great, but there are certain things like mastering where it's got to be right. And before Ozone came along, I really struggled and was considering sending a lot of stuff to mastering engineers. Then Ozone came along and changed my life, changed my world, really. And from there, that's why, I mean, I've used other plugins in conjunction with Ozone, but that's kind of been the centre of what I've done. Oh, boop. What's the
I
boop?
just got DC'd, I'm back.
Oh, okay. Your camera looks different. That's weird.
Yeah, it's done that weird blur in the background thing. I don't know how to undo it, so... Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Field though.
Gotta love a bit of DOF.
Right. I'm gonna go pee.
Okay.
Back is that?
Sure. Alright, so... Yeah, I was just saying to Chris, and I'll show you if you can see my eyes on camera. Check that out.
Oh no, I saw that. I've been watching the whole show from the beginning. Yeah,
Yeah, ow.
I wasn't able to get on, but I've been able to watch. Yeah, that doesn't look like fun at all.
My eyes hurt. There
Yeah.
are sparrows in my mind.
Ugh, not fun. Not fun.
Yeah. So, let's have a look at the next news article. So, if it loads up, there it is. Let's close that one to try and get some processor. Here's where I could do with a 12-core processor, because I'm trying to stream at the same time as opening 3 tabs in Chrome. That uses at least 9 cores worth of processing.
Should use Edge. That doesn't use any processing power.
Edge uses Chrome. Did you know about that?
No.
As of recently, Edge
It's
is
using
now
Chromium.
it's a Chromium-based browser now.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's
Edge,
amazing.
they gave up on Edge so hard they basically said, right, Edge is Chrome now.
Fair enough.
That's ridiculous.
Not a terrible move. Maybe people will adopt it now because it's
Well,
kind of inbuilt into Windows. It's easier.
yeah, so it should certainly make for a more stable browsing experience. All we need now is for Firefox to be based on Chromium, and we're laughing. So,
So more synthes.
yeah, so, well, this is more a person story than a synth story. So, this synth was made in the 60s and was stored at a university forever. It was a buckler. This guy would hand make synths. Did you see this story, Chris? Now he's back. About this guy who, the vintage synth user who restored a synth. There was this
Oh,
weird...
that was LSD, wasn't there? Or something?
Yeah, so there was this red module in it that no one had ever seen. He takes it out, what the hell is this? And it's got this crusty stuff in the back. Generally, if you've got crusty stuff in the back of electronics, it's corroded boards, that kind of thing. You just kind of scrape it out, clean it out, do what you gotta do. So this guy's handling it all, and it absorbs into his skin, which is how Professor Hoffman discovered LSD, because he was working with it and it absorbed into his skin. And yeah, so he ends up next to this synth on a 9-hour trip. Just absolutely off his face on LSD that's 50 years old and has just been stuck in the back of a synth. That's some serious hippie stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's just brilliant.
Imagine the guy that was building it that lost his LSD and just couldn't remember where he put it.
Yeah.
So I put it somewhere. Where is it? Then he has a realization. Oh shit! It's in that synth that I sold. Oh well.
Yeah.
No one will ever find that.
It's fine. Who's got to break up with the sim?
Yeah. So yeah, apparently it's been thoroughly cleaned now, that synth, but I thought that was really entertaining. Quick nerd one. So monitor controllers. I don't know if you remember a while back, but I was thinking about getting something like a monitor controller for the studio for all the volume and stuff.
Yeah.
So I could switch between speakers and how loud they were and that kind of stuff. Eventually I gave up and said, you know what, I'm just going to get the controller for the RME Raidat and get that to do it all. But if I was going to do it properly, Audient have now said, right, well, we're making one. We're making a monitor controller called the Nero. And
Did it burn CDs?
That's the new one, Nero 8. Nerd joke! But yeah, this thing's really, really nifty. It can do clever stuff, like you can save different volume levels for different speakers and that kind of thing, so you just press buttons and it just changes between speakers without any massive volume jumps or anything like that. It's got 4 headphone outs, but they're not different mixes. But it's got an inbuilt talkback mic and all sorts of clever stuff. I would get one of these if I wasn't already fully invested in my own setup, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a very clever little thing. I thought I'd just mention it briefly before moving on, because having one of them on the desk would be pretty funky. But
yeah, especially with the headphone outs.
Yes.
Does it still need to go through headphone preamps, or?
No, it's got the 4 headphone preamps in it.
Alright.
Yeah. And the only way that I got round that myself was I bought an ADAT machine and a separate headphone amp to be my converters. But yeah, they're not 4 different headphone amps. They're 4 versions of the same thing.
Yeah. It's 4 duplicates. It's not individual.
No, where the slightly ghetto version that I made is 4 individual headphone mixes. So even though it's a bit more ghetto, it's a lot more freedom. Yeah. So just wanted to mention that.
Very cool.
Yeah. In Rush news, being a massive Rush fan, they don't tour anymore. They don't play together anymore. But the bass player, Geddy Lee, one of my massive heroes, is doing a book tour because he's made a book all about bass. And they're coming to Manchester, and I'm going...
Nice.
I'm so excited. It's it got announced 2 days ago. It's on June 10th. And they sold out in like 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not coming to D&D that night then again?
Thankfully it's a Monday, but
Oh right, yeah, it's the 11th.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we
You
get-
say go to
You're allowed.
D&D.
You're allowed to go.
Oh, you're not aware of this? We have a weekly D&D thing because we're ultimate
I am
nerds.
not. I am not aware of this. I am far too cool, apparently, to be a part of this.
Well, you seemed very busy, but I mean, there is space if you'd like to join us. It is unbelievably fun. I have become the biggest D&D nerd after in my
Oh.
mid-30s. Having never played as a kid, it is way too much fun. It's not very music related though, so we'll move on.
Yes.
Can we have a spin-off channel for this, please?
Yeah, Adam can. Oh, you and Adam can compose all the background music for the scenes. I'll DM.
Yeah.
I have actually. I'm actually writing my own campaign, which theoretically, if it goes well, I might try and turn into my own tabletop game.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
I'm really enjoying it, and it's really in depth. I've created this whole world and stuff, so we shall see. Watch the space.
Maybe
Yeah.
we could make a secondary channel that's named after a weapon like Pole Arm Studios or something like that.
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I just, so Geddy Lee's touring the world on his own and talking about the bass, and I'm probably going to meet him and just be like,
It's very similar to our Mike Portnoy interview
I wondered
years
if you'd
back.
drop that. Yes, so years ago I got to interview Mike Portnoy, who's another one of my massive heroes, ex-drummer of Dream Theater. And at the time, I didn't have nearly as much camera experience as I do now. And I was incredibly starstruck. And you can hear it if you search, what was it? Banter...
Fantasy, man.
Banterzine Mike Portnoy interview. You'll find me behind the camera and Mike in front of the camera, and me going, yeah, so talk about your tour, yeah. Oh.
Can we have a remastered version of that?
A
Is there any way
remastered
we
version?
could just bring that back? That was great. A lot of those interviews were great. That when all three of us were together, we interviewed some amazing bands.
Well, the zine is
Look at where they are now.
Yeah, the zine is semi-back. I've relaunched it and I've started putting some articles on, but I've been a bit busy. But theoretically, yeah, I am looking at bringing that back and also integrating it into the studio. Because I'm still got all the contacts with the PR and the band, so I still get sent all the stuff like every week, like to basically inviting us to go and to gigs in Manchester
Really?
and stuff. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's
So I still
cool.
know them all. Because recently one of the girls that we had in the Banter Battle, Hannah Me, has made it. She's now touring, supporting like Foo Fighters and Uni86 and people all around Europe. So I was chatting to her, and it turns out that her PR agent is the same person that I used to speak to quite a bit. So kind of got me feeling, this could be fun again. So yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Awesome.
There's a bit of discussion in chat about cheap monitors to get, and Kali Audio's come up a couple of times. I've never used Kali Audio. If you guys want to send them an email and get them in touch with me and get them to send me some speakers, I'll be happy to do a review. They sound like the kind of people I should probably be talking to, so I might fire them an email myself. But yeah, I mean, I've always gone with Adam Audio, not because they've got the same name as me, but because a decade or more ago I used their A7s when they'd just come out, and the sound was just right. The high end was crisp, everything was good. They weren't cheap because they were about £1,000 for a pair at the time. And they're still around that for the A7Xs, which are like the upgraded version, which are what I use, along with Adam's Sub 8. So I use a pair of subwoofers, which is overkill, but I really quite like it. And yeah, I'll check out Kali Audio. They're relatively new, and I've heard good things about them, but a lot of the YouTubers that I've seen, they'll use them, they'll go, oh, these are really good, these, and then you never see them again. So that raises its own question. Where... What? One of our hosts says... What
Sorry,
you-
we couldn't hear you then.
What were you saying, Chris?
I've got a pair of pre-Sonos. I don't even remember buying these.
All right.
Yeah.
One
Sound
day they
alright.
just appeared.
I don't even know why I've gone with these. I think they were like probably the cheapest I could afford as a student. That sounded pretty good, so still here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. If you're getting cheap monitors, it's something that's worth keeping in mind is you are getting cheap monitors. You can't really rely on them for accuracy because they're cheap monitors made to a budget. Whatever you're paying for them, I can guarantee you that whoever built them for about a fifth of that price.
Yeah.
If you keep that in mind, because that's including the taxes, that's including the profit that the seller's taking, that's including the profit that the manufacturer's making, that's including all the overheads that the manufacturer's got. By the time it comes down to actually what it costs them to make, you're looking at about 20%. So if you get £1,000 set of monitors, it probably cost them about £200 in components to make, which sounds cheap, but you can, if you were to do it yourself, if you were an absolute engineering genius, you could probably make something great for that. But if you're looking at a £300 pair of monitors, suddenly, what's at 20% of that? £60. That's suddenly a little bit on the cheap side.
Yeah.
You're looking to spend $100. Okay, so yeah, no, good luck with that. I'm sorry, buddy, but for $100, you're not getting anything decent.
You'd be better getting a really good set of headphones.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed completely.
Personally.
In my personal experience, anyone who tells you you cannot mix on headphones is either a liar or is not.
Just outdated. I think it's just outdated. I think.
Yes.
I'd say. I don't say it's wrong. I think some people have opinions like that because it's just how they're used to working. But things have changed and evolved.
Everything's changed. It's just not that world. Like a big recording studio with 4 sets of speakers for different references. It's not really that game anymore. But Joe, you got your headphones and you've got your correction tool.
Oh, Sonar
you pretty
works,
much
yeah.
level the playing field by quite a bit. Just doing it within that. What's that cost in comparison?
Yeah, so Sonar works for speakers is, what, 150 quid,
sorry.
200 quid?
Yeah.
That's absolutely a game changer. Because it doesn't fix your room and fix your monitors, but it can give you a much clearer idea of what you're supposed to be hearing.
Exactly. You know what you're playing with then. You're not kind of going, well, why does my mix sound like so bassy in comparison to this? Like, this is knowing what you're working with. I think that's the key of it, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
What if you were on a budget? Would you maybe suggest getting a pair of like the Studio Spares SN10s, the NS10 knockoffs?
Funnily enough, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot barge pole for any amount of money. And yes, I have a pair. I am of the modern mix opinion that modern monitors should be full range. They should show you everything all at once, where the SN10 and NS10 kind of thing is not that. The whole point of them is, even in the 80s, they sounded disgusting, and they sounded kind of like cheap home hi-fi speakers of the 80s, which meant that if you could get it to sound good on them, you could get it to sound good on anything. Which, for a mixing engineer, I get, that's fine. That makes a lot of sense, and I use them to check mixes, because if a mix sounds completely wrong on them, then something's wrong. But if you were to get NS10s and you were just recording, you're not getting an accurate idea of what your instruments actually sound like by any stretch of the imagination. So you're going to be getting the instant, like, there's not a lot of low bass in those speakers, for instance. So you would end up cranking a low end on all your instruments, and then wondering why when you play it back in the car it sounds like a muddy mess. Yeah. So
I'm just trying to think, because this guy in chat, Ronaldo, sort of asking, kind of, for someone who's just starting out, what would you suggest, though? I'm trying to think of some, like, what, the old Rocket speakers? Rocket still do anything decent at lower price?
They were always awful. From what I have heard from, from suggestions, the Kali Audio LP6s, they're £160 each, which means that two of them's what, 320 quid. That is
Yeah,
about
so it's
the
like $500 if he's
Yeah.
looking at.
But that is the lowest I would be prepared to go. And saying, I really don't need anything special, I'm just learning. And that... I can see where you're coming from.
But
Yeah,
it
I
depends
think
what you're
what
doing.
Chris said, a decent pair of like Sennheiser headphones, try and find some secondhand
Yeah,
or something, because
absolutely.
that'll give you the full range that you'd get. But in it, obviously the headphones, not speakers. But
Yeah. My
I think
advice
if you're
would
tracking
be...
clean DIs though,
Oh, go on.
if you're tracking clean DIs and you're not listening it for an actual tone per se, you just listen it so you can hear yourself back in a more room environment.
Yeah.
I think there is a place for it, but
Yeah, I
don't
can see
expect me, Joe, mixing your 12-track debut album on it. Not gonna happen. But if
Yeah.
you're tracking your clean DIs, hey, go for it.
But that's where I think it takes a little bit of experience that this guy wouldn't have at this point of knowing what to expect and not subconsciously
knowing what
having
you're not
that.
hearing.
Yeah, not having that voice in the back of your head going, oh, you need more bass, crank. Oh, you need more treble, crank. Because that's what I used to do when I was learning. I'd hear something and go, oh, well, it needs more of this, more of that. And then it'd sound disgusting. And it turns out my monitoring system wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So why do I keep putting more gain on my guitars?
Yeah.
That's a different story, isn't it?
It's a slightly different
Not
story.
heavy
But yeah,
enough. I need more Boss Mel zones. Clearly.
absolutely. Maybe I should...
Have you seen that someone's actually made a Boss Mel zone VST?
Yes, Mercurial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
we spoke
cool is
about
that?
Yeah, and it's free as well, which is the best bit.
Yeah.
So I could have 8 of them in a row and start my Doom band.
Absolutely. Yeah, so my advice would be, if you already have a pair of headphones or a pair of speakers, stick with what you have and just use that for now. And if you really get the bug and you really start to find that recording music is for you, then save up some money and buy something that's worth buying.
Yeah.
Because it's the old saying, get it nice or get it twice. Would one want it to be good enough for now? No, absolutely not, because music is recorded in stereo.
What?
Oh, unless you, I mean, maybe he wants to make some mono tracks. So you're making mono, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Hey, trying
Yeah.
to be the positive spin. This guy's just starting out. He wants some help from his idol, Mr. Adam Steele over here. Like, we need.
I
to
know,
give him
I'm
some
just
help.
like, Paul,
So-
shooting those ideas down.
Is he
Sorry.
doing mono lo-fi hip hop? If he is, I'm game. I'm totally
Yeah.
game for that. But
Oh,
So it
there's
doesn't
an
have anything.
interesting one from
Yeah.
someone in the chat. Mix in mono. Never mix in mono. I'm of the school of thought that believes, much like Chris Lord LG, nobody listens to music in mono anymore, so don't even bother with that crowd. If it doesn't sound good in stereo, then it's not going to sound good to people who are listening. And if you're saying, oh, but phones have been in stereo for several years. Oh, but listening on one headphone, that's their problem, not yours. All the
I
best,
guess my phone stereo.
yeah, all the best albums that I know have massively hard pan stuff where if you listen with just one headphone, you miss a lot of the information, and that's fine by me because it's meant to be a stereo experience.
I'm gonna get another drink.
Cool. Right, so yeah, the Cali.
What are people drinking? Is anyone drinking anything?
I'm drinking San
I'm-
Miguel, actually, of all things. Cheap Spanish
I'm
lager.
not.
I'm preparing for my trip to Spain. I'm acclimatizing.
I'm on lemonade and lime vodka.
Lime vodka.
I've got a 3-day weekend. It's fine. It's fine.
Fair enough.
I'm allowed.
Nice.
Right. Back in a minute. Get a drink.
Yeah. I recently saw that there's now a thing, Copperberg Strawberry and Lime Gin.
Gin. Okay.
Yes, so it's really sickly sweet as a gin, but if you mix it with tonic, suddenly it's not.
Oh, the cranky gaming thing.
Yeah, how stupid is this? I mean, it looks fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Someone shared this with me today.
So the reason that I've put this in is it's made by a company called Teenage Engineering, who basically make synths, and they've decided to make this really hipster game thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so Ronaldo says, I'll just put some decent ones on the credit card. What about those
And then-
Akai MIDI controllers? Well, what about them? What do you want one for? That's... Yeah. Don't buy stuff because you think it might be cool. I've done that a lot, and I've wasted a lot of money, especially when I was younger and starting out. I would buy stuff that I thought, this will help with my production, and then used it once.
We spoke about it the other week, didn't we? If you're just starting out, have a computer that you can use as a DAW,
Yes.
a good microphone, and a good preamp. And that's it. Obviously, something to listen back on, so headphones. But yeah, if you haven't spent any money yet, buy yourself a decent mic, buy yourself a decent preamp, and there you go. That's all you need until your music's sounding really good. And then get stuff as you need it rather than because you want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Audient ID4. That's what I've used for my basic production for a couple of years now. If I'm at home and I've got an idea to get down, I can jam this in and it's studio quality and I'm done. And Mark King says, might be able to get something reasonable second-hand. Yeah, absolutely. If you can find stuff for less second-hand, do it.
The only thing I'd say with that is if you do know anyone that knows a little bit more than you do, maybe get them to go and have a look with you when you go and pick it up just to make sure everything's in the right nick.
Yeah, make sure it's not broke.
You could easily be duped out of spending some money from some broken speakers or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you won't know any different because you don't have that knowledge yet. You don't.
And they'll just tell you, oh no, it's better be like that.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to think we've always been a bit savvy about that, but then me and Liam used to go together to get second-hand gear and check it out before we picked it up. Once we picked up a mixing desk that was heavier than we were.
In Birmingham, the
Yamaha, the Yamaha one. The digital desk that we nearly slipped over in the snow because it was that heavy.
How did I get the Ellen and Heath desk? Did I get my dad to give us a lift with that? Because I needed a van for that thing, didn't it?
I think you're right, because we went to a
theatre
theatre
in Oldham.
Yeah.
It was from a theatre in Oldham, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, monster.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said about limitations, whether that be forced or chosen. Fair, but at the same time, creative limitations, yes. Technical limitations, no, I don't think they help when you're trying to learn. They're more like a barrier. Especially when it comes to monitoring, because what you want to be able to hear is what is actually happening. You don't want your system to be lying to you. That's not going to creatively help you in any way. If you're limited in terms of the amount of equipment you have to work with, yeah, great, you're going to come up with some cool stuff because you're not sat there with option paralysis.
You have to think differently.
Yes, but by the same token, I think monitoring is one of the very few things where you shouldn't really compromise.
No, exactly. Because it's a different purpose. It's a technical purpose. It's not creative. I personally.
Yeah.
I see it more technical when you get into that realm.
Yeah, when we first built the studio, we were on a shoestring budget and we had a really basic interface, basic desk. But we had these Mission hi-fi speakers, and they were really what held me and us back most. And they were the first thing to be upgraded to proper monitors. And when they were upgraded, everything changed. Because suddenly the system wasn't lying to me anymore. And from there, it was just kind of, okay, we've earned some money, what can we upgrade next? But that was the thing for me, really, that made the studio much easier to run, because my monitors were being honest with me, which meant that if things sucked, it was my fault.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. If you can hear that it sucks, it's then up to you to understand that it sucks and then go, well, why, and then fix it.
Yeah.
But if your system isn't telling you that your sound sucks, it's lying to you. So how are you ever going to know until you play it to someone else and they go, I don't like this?
Yeah.
And you might not know why. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think at that point you kind of could potentially become quite defensive. Because you're so used to the lie. Now that someone's going against you, you go, nah, they're just going against me for the sake of it. You know, you gotta be really kind of open-minded. If you know your gear's not up to scratch, you gotta be ready for people to be honest.
Yeah. Yes, so monitors and listening environment, which Paul Lucas says, which is a very important point. We were quite lucky when we upgraded our speakers that the studio at that time was in a slightly unique design that I've only seen in a few studios, where the big console was like in the middle of the room almost. Not entirely in the middle of the room, but do you remember when we were on the ground floor?
Mhm.
And the monitors were they were nowhere near any of the walls or any of that kind of thing. So what I was
Mhm.
hearing out of the speakers was a very honest representation of what I should have been hearing. But then when we moved down into the proper studio, the walls were all designed to be floating walls with proper absorption and, properly isolated, so it was a decent listening environment to begin with. So I have been quite lucky in that respect that we've always had minimal barriers where most people would have to put monitors up against a wall, which can cause some serious problems. So yeah, just
Yep.
read up on that. That will make the biggest difference to you.
Yeah, I think that's maybe an argument for headphone mixes a bit more, because practicality, I've had to put my studio in the corner of the room because that's what I've got to work with.
Yeah,
You know.
but I mean, have you put a bit of acoustic foam behind them, or
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've done as much as I can, kind of thing.
yeah,
But
you
I
stepped them away from
know
the wall a bit,
it's
and
not.
yeah. Oh, but you're aware of it, and with the experience of being a studio engineer, I think, yeah, you can listen to regular music on them before you start work and go, well, this is what I've got to work with, and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you've got the necessary experience to know the fight you're fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if there's anything I've learned from going to other people's studios, other people's monitoring systems sound different to mine,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. They just do, but they and I have the experience to go, okay, let's listen to a track. How different does this sound from what I'm used to? Okay, now with that in mind, let's go. And a well-treated room, even if it sounds different, it shouldn't sound different enough to screw everything up.
Yeah.
So, quick question from Dr. Nightgaunt, one of our regulars. On the subjects of headphones, would you suggest anything other than a pair of cans with a flat frequency response? Ideally, no.
Yeah. Why
I
would
would,
you have anything that's got anything hyped?
yeah, for recording and mixing, I thought that was a great thing when I was younger, and it turns out it's really not. But that's where
It's like people that mix with beats. Sorry, throwing
yeah.
that name on the bus. I'm sorry. Just no.
Fun fact,
Can't do it.
beats have massively improved, apparently. I've listened to a few pairs recently, and they're not the muddy bass, no treble monsters they used to be. But what I would suggest is get the best just the best headphones you can reasonably afford. We're not necessarily talking hundreds. And get yourself SonarWorks, as long as SonarWorks has that headphone profile to correct it.
Yeah, it has a pretty large catalogue. You'd have to get something pretty obscure for them to not have something,
Like just
or
next to
something
me,
similar.
I've got my Sennheiser 650s, which are absolutely battered and have been halfway around the world with me. I only realised when I got SonarWorks how much I couldn't trust those headphones on their own, despite the fact that a lot of people use them. That's another thing that really lifted a blanket off, so to speak, so that I'm much more confident mixing on headphones. Which I do a lot, actually. I do a lot of mixing on headphones, but I make sure to keep the volume down. And I do always go back into the studio and check stuff. Just, make sure that what I've done on headphones is translating right. And sometimes I'll make small changes when I'm listening on monitors, but it's usually small stuff. Where it
you've
used
done
to be.
the large brush strokes already, kind of thing. You've already done the big bit. You're just tidying up more so.
It used to be quite big changes that I'd have to make, like massive EQ changes on guitars, that kind of thing. Now it's a lot less. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really made a lot of difference to me. And I like mixing on headphones. I've been a headphone listener most of my life, where people say, oh, you should always mix on monitors. When I was 10 years old, 15, 20 years old, everything was headphones for me. So where people say, oh, the phantom imaging's not right and that kind of thing, I know what they mean because I'm used to listening on studio monitors. But
Yeah.
for me, the experience of super wide stuff has always been the standard for me. So for me, I'm not a fish out of water mixing on headphones because I just make everything feel like the albums that I know and love feel.
Mm.
And by having that gut feeling of, well, this album that I like, they did this, I'm gonna do this. When I play it back on monitors, it translates like it should.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last question before we move on and talk about this strange little game system. Currently using AKG K240s, would like to upgrade. What would we suggest in the roughly $300 range? If you're okay with going to open backs, so you're not bothered about external noise, which I'm not, HD 650s by Sennheiser every day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then look at getting SonarWorks. I got a second pair of 650s for a massive bargain, and a certain Mr. Christian Taylor has them right now.
Hey.
They're around somewhere.
Underneath the desk, I've got that much stuff I need to organise through. They're
Yeah.
under there at the moment.
But yeah, it was one of those things where I liked them so much I went to get a second pair when my first pair hadn't even broken yet, because I was expecting these to break because I use them so damn much.
You replaced the cable on that one.
I
Did you?
did, and it's broken. So yeah, I got a it's one of those things that I accidentally got the cable underneath a wheel on a chair, and it pulled, and it completely pulled the solder off the connections, which is
Well, you've
Wow.
broken that new fancy cable.
yeah, it's my own damn
Wow.
fault. So I'm gonna fix it. It's a case of my really nice soldering irons at the studio, and I've not been at the studio as much as I'd like to be because I've been ill. So either late this week or next week, I'm gonna take this in and just resolder it back together, and carry on as normal. But it's just a case of getting round to it because it's my own stupid fault for kind of ripping them apart. But yeah, it was a really nice cable while it lasted. But I've got all the separate
No, a
parts.
few years now.
No, the new cable I got
Oh,
a few
the
weeks
newest
back.
one.
Yeah, it's purple and
No.
black cable. It's really nice. It's like braided. It's really, really nice, apart from the fact that when you pull it really, really hard, it breaks. Which you could say about anything, really.
Yeah.
Fixing the Mix says, for closed back headphones, I've heard good things about the blue Lolas. It's not something I've heard, but I've not heard anything bad either, so I can't possibly comment on that. For good closed backs, though, I have heard a lot of great recommendations for Bayer Dynamics DT770s. They come up time and time and time again in audio conversations. They are more bass heavy than the 650s from Sennheiser, but if you're using SonarWorks to kind of flatten them out, then hey, that could work for you.
Yeah.
Alright, let's move on to talking about this ridiculous little thing. So this kind of Game Boy-ish thing that's about the size of a floppy disk, for you kids that's the save icon.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That-
This thing's got like a black and white screen. It's not got any like HDMI out or anything. But the reason that I'm talking about it today is it's made by Teenage Engineering, who are mostly synth makers. So I think it was like the Wind Up one. It's Wind Up Power, and yeah.
There's
It's-
a little crank on the right. You crank it.
It's an analog controller. So I want to see how this works. It's going to be available at the start of next year, but it looks absolutely stupid. Possibly in a good way, but stupid. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of looks cool and quirky. I don't really think that it's actually possible for anyone to get into the hardware market for computer gaming anymore.
Yeah.
It's such a dead market. There's 3 companies and that's it. Anyone else would have to spend literally billions, and that's not exaggeration in terms to get into it. So yeah, it looks like it'll be fun and quirky, and some people have fun with it. Hopefully, it'll have a kind of a collector's market from people that are into the synths and stuff. But yeah, I don't really see it going anywhere other than that.
How much are we looking for it?
$150.
It's not bad.
149. So
But it's but it only packages seasons the games. Yeah. One of the cool things it did say is say Bennett Foddy on there as one of the makers of one of the games. Yeah, it did. It's like halfway down. He that's there's some good names in there in terms of game making. So
well, Bennett Foddy, that's quite a good name. Bennett Foddy, it just has a nice ring to it.
It does.
Oh, he made Ape Out. Right, okay. But yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if it's got a synth element, but I wouldn't put it past them. It looks kind of... Who's it for? That's the thing, because it's got the same buttons as an old Game Boy. It's pretty much got the same screen as an old Game Boy.
It's for us.
By the fact that you've referenced Ape Out, which is one of the games, I assume you've not played Getting Over It then?
No.
You need to experience that. It is the most horrific experience of your life. It's a game where it's designed for you to hate it, and there's a narration as you go through it that is telling you that you are going to hate this, and I'm going to basically take you to the brink of wanting to throw your computer out the window, and you do. It's a game where you've just got to slowly, methodically climb up a mountain by using the mouse to sort of spin an axe to kind of latch onto the next thing.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's a guy in he's sat in a pot, and basically once you get to like halfway up, you can potentially fall off and go right back to the very beginning again, and have to start all the way. And there's no saves. So yeah, it's a lesson in game design. That's what I'll say it is. It's very interesting, the psychology of how irritating you can make a game, and also how addictive you can make it, whilst also being a game that no one enjoys playing.
Yeah, that sounds like a game I don't want to play.
So if you can make something in that vein for something like this, you could end up seeing it catch on massively just because of the games on it. If you can make that sort of game that is just psychologically something you don't want to put down, then yeah. But interesting.
Yeah.
From what I could see of the screen, it almost looked kind of like Kindle-esque.
Yeah, it's like that almost e-papery kind of thing. Which is interesting, because most of Teenage Engineering stuff is like they look like pocket calculators and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which this is so the pocket operators. Oh Jesus! So they've got like a full modular that's quite small. Didn't know that.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff actually. I was having a little dig as well.
Yeah. Question in chat while we're talking about gaming. Have you seen the preview trailer for Cyberpunk 2077?
I saw the hour-long gameplay demo that was at E3.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and I was just there with my mouth on the floor for an hour.
Looks very cool.
Yeah.
Way more excited for Death Stranding right now, though, after that sort of drops over the last 2 days.
Oh my god, yes.
I've not heard I've not heard this development.
Well, it's likely that basically there's been like screenshots from PlayStation of like the pre-release screens. They had a 24-hour Twitch screen. The Twitch stream was mental. They basically played like an hour of gameplay on Twitch, but they covered up the screen, and it was just like cutouts of hands, so you could only see a tiny bit of what was going on behind it, but with like music going on and stuff. It was really creepy.
Genius.
But
so good.
And then there's been
do you know the cast of this game, man?
I know
we've got Hideo Kojima, Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, Guillermo del Toro. I'm sure there's people I've missed. This is pretty much Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus and Kojima. We're going to do Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Now this has just become its own beast. It is so interesting, and we know so little about it.
The cool thing that Kojima said was that there is going to be an element of social play to it, though.
Yeah.
And he's not explained. So he said it's going to be. He can't say too much. It's going to be different to how any other game has done it before, but he'll say that you will be aware of other people existing. But he said that he said he wanted it to mimic the real world in the sense of, although you can communicate with people, you very rarely actually interact with anyone in any sort of meaningful way. I think is what he said.
It's like autism
So he's
generator.
So I feel like he's going to try and make it as a kind of almost like metaphor for life with social media. But from the tag, the one thing that we've got out of it is on the preview screen. It says that if you scroll down, it might have it here. It actually had a tagline from PlayStation as to what the game's about, and that's the most information we've ever had. And it said something about the fact of the character that you're playing is carrying something to do with the remnants of civilization that he has to get somewhere in order to basically save mankind, traveling through an alien type environment or something like that. So, yeah, we still know very little.
It's a completely new type of action game where the player's goal is to reconnect isolated cities and a fragmented society. All elements, including the story and gameplay, are bound together by the theme of strand or connection. As Sam Porter bridges, you will attempt to bridge these divisions, and in doing so, create new bonds or strands with other players around the globe. Through your experience playing the game, I hope you'll come to understand the true importance of forging connections with others. Now please enjoy the latest Death Stranding trailer.
So that kind of feels like it's going to have an element of kind of No Man's Sky to it then, where there's going to be other, and that's like No Man's Sky 2019, not on launch, because it seems like there's going to be other sort of people and communities that you can interact with, so that could be really cool.
Loot boxes for different mud patterns on Norman Reedus' face.
But yeah,
Tumbleweed.
Yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it goes.
And to tie it into the topic, the music on it sounds really fucking cool so far. So
cool. I will check that out and recommend that everybody else does as well. I'm not going to play it because copyright will kill us. So, last little bit today. This is one from Chris. Chris, hello.
Hey.
Your video's disappeared.
Yeah, I lost my connection for a sec. Back.
Okay. Weird. Okay. So this is your news topic. That's why I wanted to wait. So there was a guy who made
really
a guitar out of pencils.
Design with alternative materials, and like you might have seen this going on, like the guitar made out of 1200 pencil crayons and stuff like that. The guy's done a new one, building it out of epoxy resin. Like I said, I'm fascinated by alternative materials to build guitars and pretty much new things, so I thought this was really interesting.
Yeah, so that looks...
Because it's not acrylic, that's one thing. Definitely not acrylic. It's a different beast, but similar kind of aesthetic, shall we say.
I reckon it's going to weigh about the same as acrylic, which means a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah. This is beyond Les Paul weight.
Yeah, this is back-breaking stuff.
Does it sound any good?
There is a sound clip at the end, actually.
Oh, here there is. Right, the copyright's going to kill us, but never mind. Let's have a listen. Can you hear this?
First audiobook for free by celebrated storytellers from...
I'm not going to play too much, but it sounds like a guitar.
Yeah, exactly. It's, like I said, I just like quirky little things. It's like, do you remember the Stratocaster made out of cardboard? Like, stuff like that. Fender did it themselves. Amazing.
The piece that he played didn't really give us too much of that. I would have liked to have an idea of what sort of sustain it has, given the different types of material. So, but his kind of staccato playing didn't really allow to know that, unless he's masking it, because actually after half a second of playing, it just goes completely dead.
Yeah, it's actually shoulder dislocates about after half a second.
I'm just trying to see now if he actually hits a string and lets it sustain. Oh, it's not plugged in.
Forward.
Which doesn't help. No, so but yeah. So Dr. Nightgot says, how will the tone differ from acrylic? No idea. But that's the thing. Different materials sound different from each other.
Yeah. Well,
It just
this goes back into the tone wood argument. That's its own kettle of fish, and we could probably argue for an hour and a half about tone woods. But if anything, it should technically be a more sterile sound compared to a standard body sound, because you're just hearing pickups because there's no flowing of air per se. But this is...
That's it. There's a lot going on, isn't there? Because it's not just about air; it's about vibration through the bridge into the material and all that kind of jazz.
There's so many variables in that. Like it's like the carbon fiber and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah. Or the stuff that Aristides use, because they make a guitar shell and fill it full of goop.
Yeah, exactly. That's another kind of material, and then you got even aluminium necks, like aluminium guitar necks have been done.
So there was a guy
aluminum.
saying, anyone remember the electric guitars with steel necks? So they were aluminium necks, and it was Kramer that made them. And me and Chris were talking about.
You can see them also on Rick Toon guitars. Tosin Abasi's Blur.
Oh, right.
Is aluminium or aluminum neck, aircraft material, and it's the way he's described it, the concave on the neck, it's pretty much like an iPhone, like that kind of straightness throughout.
All right.
And he says one of the most comfortable necks he's ever played.
Well, for the stuff he does, that makes a lot of sense, because he's got like 17 fingers on each hand going all around the crazy... Yeah.
Exactly.
So having a super thin neck makes sense. Yeah.
Right, and you can enter those kind of realms with these different materials because they don't, environmental doesn't make as much difference.
Yeah. But
per se. But
technically, you should get loads and loads of sustain out of a metal neck. I mean, if you've ever had a long metal thing and hit it, it goes dong and sustains for ages.
Yeah,
but it only does that at one note. So, yeah, that's the question. But yeah, yes, we were talking just before the stream about neck dive, and I would imagine with an aluminium neck, you let go of that guitar and that head's gonna go dunk, and just head for
you're gonna cut your leg open with that if that hits you. Yeah. You're gonna feel that.
Or yeah, you just I'd find that very uncomfortable, not because of the weight, but because the way that I play, I need to not be holding the weight of the neck, where some people are alright with that. I can't be holding the weight of the neck in my hand. I have to be kind of free-handed almost.
Yeah, I like body heavy, personally.
Yeah.
I'd rather be body heavy than neck heavy, any day.
I mean, ideally for me, perfect balance, but you can't always get that, but you can get close. And the most balanced guitar I've ever had is a PRS Tremonti, a USA model, where you just let go of it completely with the most slippy strap you've ever seen, and it just didn't move. It just stayed there. And that is exactly what I want out of a guitar, but at the same time, I used to have a headless bass, and that had no neck dive, but that was a whole different instrument, because you didn't feel like you could throw it around, because it was too perfect, so you ended up doing all the tappy stuff, it ended up almost losing some soul. It was weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting about as far off topic as is possible, and having blabbered for an hour and a half and losing my voice because I'm not quite over this flu and my head hurts a lot, I think it's time to call it, unless there's anything else anyone wants to ask or anything that you guys want to bring up before next week.
Not me.
Not you.
No, I got nothing. I barely turned up, let alone anything else. I've turned up for the first time in weeks.
Been a pleasure to have you back, Chris.
Yeah, been
absolutely. Good. Yes, so hopefully this has inspired us to get more people on the show, because it's something that we had a lot of plans for, and they've kind of gone by the wayside a little bit as we've been really busy, but we're now going to make the effort to get more people on the show. We had Kyle from RevAmps a few weeks back. Chris, of course, is our special guest. I've been talking to a few other manufacturers, and I'm going to see if we can get a few people on. Definitely want to get Paul from Zilla on the show. He'd be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
And he said he would. It's just a case of actually fixing a date.
Mhm.
And yeah, so if there's anybody else you know who want to get on the show, let's get cracking. If there's anybody in chat who's got any suggestions, then...
Yeah, get on Twitter and at people to follow us or, find us on there, because that drives it. Rather than us approaching people, if you got people you want to see on this show, like, get them to come and find us,
Yep. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Happy Windows
Cool.
1903? Am I on 1903 build? If I am, I hadn't noticed. I'm guessing there's a new Windows build. I'm on 1803, so I'm guessing that's only just come out. I'll have a look, because there's always like creators updates. I'll see what they've destroyed in Windows now. They're constantly screwing up something.
Of course.
Right. So I'm going to go rest my very sore eyes for a little while and then see if I can finish editing this Reaper tutorial to have it out as soon as I can, because it's already overdue.
Cool,
But
guys. Okay.
it is a big one.
I'll see you
Bye.
next week. Bye-bye.
Adios. See you all in a bit.
Yo.